Hey, welcome everybody. It's Ted Prodromou, another episode of our Epic Encore, which is something I've made up for myself personally, to be honest, because I'm going through a lot of career changes or life changes. And I was talking to my friend here, Brian Kurtz, about that, and we're exactly the same age. So we're kind of thinking about what is retirement or what isn't retirement. So welcome, Brian.
Thanks, Ted, and I applaud you for launching this, and I wanted to be part of it because I think it's needed because I'll give you something that just popped into my mind because it happened recently. I went to a mastermind. I won't mention which one. It was with some of the top online marketers in the world. Some people can guess, but I'm not going to tell you who it was and what it was. But what was interesting is like I'm 66 years old, although now that I've given it away, I was going to try to pass off that we're both 42, but I don't think we can do that. And I'm definitely one of the two oldest people in the room of 50 people in this mastermind. So we got into a discussion. In fact, it was a launched a discussion from one of the 40-year-olds or maybe a guy who's close to 50. And it was about like always being in a growth mode when you're like, running hard and being a marketer and especially in marketing, you're always like, what's next? What's next? What's next? And you're on that treadmill, and hopefully it's not a treadmill. Hopefully you're running in a field, not on a treadmill because the treadmill doesn't go anywhere, but you're in a field. But even if you're in a field, talking about like, Dan Sullivan's in Strategic Coach, he's the top coach for entrepreneurs in the world. He talks about the gap. And the gap is when an entrepreneur is running in a field to the horizon. And the fact is, if you run to the horizon, you never get there. So what does that mean? Well, it means that you need to like make the present so powerful and not look too far ahead. And even if you want to look ahead, now Dan Sullivan says 90 days is a good time frame. You look ahead 90 days, and then after 90 days, you figure out what you wanted to accomplish before the 90 days. You go through the 90 days, and then you take a look and say, like, what did you turn around, not look at the horizon. You turn around and say, what did I accomplish in those 90 days based on what I had planned? You celebrate what you got done. Then you turn back around, not to go to the horizon, but to go to the next 90 days. That's one way to look at that.
Yeah.
Um, but during this discussion at this mastermind, it became clear to me that, a lot of these young entrepreneurs, and I'm not, we're not grandpa at the picnic here. We're not saying, you know, you whippersnappers, you don't know what you're doing. That's not what I know that that's not your game. It's not my game. But my game is, what do you do? What's really meaningful for you? What is going to produce something beyond money, beyond recognition, beyond a referral, and all those things are good.
Yeah.
Money's good, recognition's good, a referral is good. And I talk about the 5 ways you get paid, which I also got from Dan Sullivan and Joe Polish. But the 5 ways you get paid, the fifth is cash. So how do you work in all of the things that you can attain without being on this like just grow, grind. What does Gary Vaynerchuk call it? He calls it the um he doesn't call it the grind. He calls it
Yes, not the grind. Yeah, I know what you mean.
yeah, but it's always like, you've got to be in it to win it, basically. And you always have to be thinking about the next thing. And I'm not saying that's a bad way to live, but you're going to get tired. And when
Right.
you're 66 as opposed to 26, you get tired a lot faster.
Yeah.
So my take, and you can ask me questions and we can just do a little give and take here on all of this, but what came out of the discussion in this mastermind, and of course I participated because I talked about, you know, how I get compensated in my life. And it's rarely, I mean, money is just one small aspect. Now I'm at a stage in my life where, I probably I definitely have enough money to live for the rest of my life. I have enough money to give a nice inheritance to my kids and my grandkids. If I do have grandkids, I don't have any yet. I know you do. Um, but so it's not. I don't want to do it for free. Whatever I do,
Right.
I'll do stuff for free. I always do. I'm doing this for free. This is the kind of stuff I always do for free. Contribute to other people's businesses and contribute to other people's missions. So that goes without saying. But if it's not about money, what's it about? What is it real? What do you really want to accomplish? And how do you get paid, whether, in cash or in other ways? And so it's one way to look at it.
Yeah.
But I just being hustling all the time. And again, there's some downside. This is my theory anyway, that there's some downside to not be motivated by money.
Right.
And the downside is you get complacent. I do anyway, because I look, I ate what I killed for a long time.
Yeah.
It's not like I didn't do it, right? But that I did it for such a long time and I don't have to do it anymore. What does that mean in terms of my incentive to make a bigger contribution, to be more of what I can be? And it can get, you can get complacent,
Yeah.
and I think that's where, I don't know if that's where you're at, but that's where I'm at a lot of my days,
Oh,
because
it's like the
everything,
grind. You
it's a
don't, you
grind.
don't-
Yeah, it's sort of like, I want to look. There are very few things that I need to do. Everything is a nice to do.
yeah.
Great place to be, right? But where's going to be, where's the fire under my ass to do a need to do? And I do have some stuff that I need to do. I need to run the mastermind of mine that you're in, Titans Accelerator.
Right.
So I need to be on that call and be accessible and be,
But it's not
manage
like work
calls.
for you. And you enjoy that.
I do, but it is work in that you wrote about this recently, that it's a definite time that I need to be somewhere, that I don't want to, I need to show up and perform, and that is, it's at least an obligation if not a requirement, and it's something I don't take lightly. When I say I'm going to do something, I do it. That's been
Yeah.
my whole career, and you're like that too. You don't want to say you're going to do something and not do it. So in that respect, I like to do it, but now it becomes more of a requirement and an obligation, and you better like doing it, especially at our age. Otherwise, you're going to be miserable. Now, I know that we're still in probably the 1% of people in the world that at 66 years old, that we can do what we want to do when we want to do it, basically.
Right.
Um, but that doesn't mean we have 100% freedom all the time. And then we have family commitments, we have all kinds of things that we feel that are important in our lives. And it is, for me though, that it's that mental conflict of the need to do, nice to do, not having many need to do's, and
Hmm.
how to, I don't want to create more need to do's, but a few more need to do's, if I created them, might get me to a higher level of accomplishment. And then what does that mean? Do I need it? I was in that mastermind that I talked about 8, 9 years ago when I just started. I was just leaving Boardroom. I had a 34-year career at Boardroom. Then I
Yeah.
went out on my own for Titans Marketing. And I remember there was a woman there who didn't was new to the group. She didn't um she didn't she didn't know me, but she had read about me, I guess, because she had to know about me, because the people in the room, because I was on a hot seat, and my hot seat was, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? I was leaving Boardroom. What am I going to do? And that's a question we ask all the time,
Right.
because second act, second careers, that's what your program is about. And so this woman, and she's very wise, she's still in the group. So I go back to this 9 years ago. I just saw her last week and I reminded her of this. And she said she had one line, because everybody's telling me what to do, right? They're saying, "Go, Brian, go sit on a beach for 6 months and then decide what you want to do." Someone else says, "You got to launch something. You got to do something big." another person says you need to do this. So that it's always like it was all these need to do's and the hustle. And
Yeah.
this was, I say 9 years ago. So I was like in my mid 50s, certainly not, I'm not over the hill now, and I certainly wasn't over the hill then. And she had one line. She said, Brian, start with you have nothing to prove. And that was, I mean, my head like exploded for a
Yeah.
moment anyway. Because think about that. When you take the pressure off, because how much of what we do, I'm not saying just me and you, but everybody, that we're trying to prove something, whether to ourselves, to the industry at large. I'm talking about business now. Maybe to your family to show them
Yeah.
that you're, maybe in my younger years, it was to prove something to my parents that I could exist with an English major degree and not an accounting or law degree. So there was a lot of proving something. And
Right.
when someone gives you permission and says, and it's this woman who didn't even know me, she just knew of my career, and she said, "You have nothing to prove." God, it opened up everything for me. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So that's my preamble. Whether you want where you want to go here and what you want to do with that is up to you. But
Yeah. No,
that's
it's
how I look at these new. I'm not going to say twilight years. I'm not going to say retirement years because I'm never going to retire.
you're not going to
It's
label it.
yeah, it's hard to label it. It really is.
But for years, they've told us if your business isn't growing, it's dying. So we're
Mm,
like pushing hard to keep growing our business. Now we're at the stage of, I'm tired. I don't need the money like I used to. It's not, I've proven everything I need to prove.
right.
So
So
now
now
what's
I,
next?
I think it's all about when I went to the Landmark Forum probably 20 years ago. The Landmark Forum was the reincarnation of S, but they let you go to the bathroom.
Yep.
Um, and there's people who don't know what I'm talking about. They're personal development seminars, some more strategic, some more severe, some more cult-like. Landmark Forum was a good one. And I went to the forum, and it's like 3 days with 150 people, and you can't take notes, and you just have to absorb what's going on. People go up to the mic. The forum leader is very skilled in reading the room and reading the people at the mics, because some people come there and they're suicidal because they're looking for something. They're looking for the next thing. I mean, it was an amazing experience. So I went through that, and then you do the advanced course, which is 4 days with a room half the size of 75 people, where you can take notes, where you break out into small groups, where you get to know the other 74 people in the group. And on the fourth day in the evening, every person gets up on stage and declares what's called, you have to declare your possibility.
Hmm.
Usually it's one word, but it can be more than that. And they advise you that don't rehearse it, don't, don't think about it beforehand, and just get up on stage and let the room define you. You're going to be looking at these other 74 people who you've been with for 4 days. You've been talking with them, interacting with them, exchanging your life and their lives, and you just kind of let the room tell you what your possibility is.
Yeah.
And I'm a rule follower, so I didn't rehearse. I didn't think about a word. You know, I didn't think about what I was going to say. And I got up on stage. I looked around the room. You're supposed to like survey the room, spend even like a couple of minutes in silence if you have to.
Yeah.
It's an amazing experience. And so, and the word that I said, I am the possibility of, and the word that came out was contribution. And not that it's the be all end all for everybody, but I realize that's why I live and I contribute.
Hmm.
And I also thought about it in the context of some people have labeled me like an expert networker,
Right.
and what is networking? Networking is like, shaking hands with the most amount of people, having the most Facebook friends. That's not me, but I was labeled that. So I took the contribution thing and I made my skill, my superpower of networking into contribute to connect, which is so much better. Like you
Yeah.
contribute to people, that's how you connect with them and you go a mile deep with them. And I realized that's my whole life.
Yeah.
Now, you could say, how do you get paid for that? But I got paid for it for a lot of years by
Right.
contributing my wisdom, my knowledge, my ability to learn and then teach, ability to absorb from my mentors.
Hmm.
Uh, so I've been a contributor at a high level for a very long time. And not that that makes me better than anybody else. It's just that I absorb and I contribute what I absorb. I've done it already on this call. I've
Right.
contributed what I learned from Dan Sullivan. I contributed what I learned from Joe Polish. I could name drop till the cows come home, but I'm not name dropping to brag. I'm name dropping because I picked up so much wisdom and knowledge from the people I've existed with that have mentored me, and I consider that my superpower. Because some people absorb it and then they just don't share it.
No,
Like
they
they
don't.
take it, and sometimes they say it's my idea once they absorb it, right? I am like, I am so um I'm I am ruthless, I would say, about giving people the credit for what I share to a fault. I
Yeah.
mean, like I did a blog post once. I mentioned something that I had gotten from Dan Sullivan, and I realized I didn't quote him. I said it made it sound like I had invented something. And the next week blog post, I said, by the way, I have to make a correction, because otherwise I don't sleep at night sometimes
Right.
if I don't give appropriate attribution to what I've learned from others that I now share as my own teaching, but nothing is your own.
Right.
Everything is is absorbed and borrowed. I often say I've never invented anything. I mean, you're a LinkedIn expert. You didn't invent LinkedIn. You invented some ways to connect the dots within LinkedIn, and you proved it by showing what worked, and then you made it your own. But you never, you know, I mean, you probably invented more than I have, actually, now that I think about it.
Well,
But that's the beauty of being, a contributor in the world. So that's how I define contribution.
and my
And
approach to
saying,
LinkedIn is like you just said, it's not about how many connections you're, how many people in your network,
right,
how deep you're going. And I wonder if that's because we both did business before the internet. So we had to build relationships. So we took the time to go deep with a few people. I always say the Rolodex.
yeah,
Most people don't know what that is, but if
what
you
it
got a
is,
spot
right?
in my Rolodex, you are a trusted resource. And there's maybe 150 people in that Rolodex.
I got to tell you, Marty Edelston, my mentor, had a triple wheel Rolodex. Rolodexes were usually circular. Sometimes they were like a file, but they were usually circular. He had three huge, like big wheels. So, and I always it's sort of like, your Facebook friends, right? And
Yeah.
God, he's got the most Rolodex contacts. But the thing was, Marty knew every single one of them
Hmm.
because he had developed relationships with them. And, show me the person that has 5,000 Facebook friends where he's developed relationships with more than 10, you
Right.
know. I'm exaggerating. I know people can have a top 50, a top 100 or whatever, but it's sort of like, it's quality over quantity.
Yeah.
But someone who has quantity and quality is to be admired, in my opinion. And that's why I admired Marty so much, because he just want he was such a lifelong learner, and he always wanted to absorb from all of the experts, and then he put them in his Rolodex so he continue to learn from them and
Yeah.
then contribute to them. He was a contributor to them as well. It wasn't a one-way street. I got an email just the other day, and I found it a little perplexing. And this is where money comes in a little bit, maybe. I don't know. So someone who is a member of Titans Accelerator, my mastermind that you're in, 250 members, and this person wrote to me, and it's someone who's a special person because I had a relationship with her before, now it's a woman, so now I've narrowed it down, but I'm not gonna. But basically, she wrote to me and said, and I knew her for many years before she joined Titans Accelerator, so I had a relationship with her. and a deep one. And she joined Titans Accelerator. She's made incredible contacts within the group. It's benefited her business. And she wrote me an email and asked, can we hop on a call? And I've always hopped on calls with her because she's a special person in my life. And, having her in my group that she's paying me something now, makes even a bigger difference because
Yeah.
money is something. But I would have, if I didn't have my mastermind, I would always take a call from her and spend time with her. But now that I have my group, which costs $2,000 a year, and I charge $2,000 an hour for a coaching phone call, one on
Mhm.
one, all of a sudden it's like I'm still fine doing it, but but the email said, "Can you hop on a call? I'm going through some stuff. I want to run it by you." And then she puts a line in, something like, "And I need to reduce some expenses, so I'm thinking about canceling my membership, Titans Accelerator." And I don't know, I'm sensitive. I'm not. It's not that I need her $2,000 for the membership, but that seems so um disjointed, right?
Yeah.
And she didn't realize maybe that she was even doing it. Like she was basically saying, I want to now take more from you and reduce my monetary relation, which has been in existence for a while, and I expect you to just say yes to that. Or
Interesting.
what do you think of that?
It's just seemed convoluted. It's like mixed message, definitely. Like, I need your advice. You're an expert, but I'm not going to pay you anymore.
Yeah, but the thing was, the fact is, I never would have. Before I had a place where she could pay me,
Yeah.
I never would have charged her. So the money then becomes a complication
Right.
almost in this case. But my career has changed. I become a paid coach, a
Right.
paid consultant. So it's now my job to do that, whereas the one-on-one consulting is not part of the membership, and yet I was giving it to her for free because of who she was in my life.
Right.
I'm fine with that. But now I don't know. I was just curious about it because I say I'm not about the money, and I'm not. But in this particular case, it just seemed like, I guess what it does, it gives me an indicator that, when I think about Adam Grant's book, Give and Take, which is a great book, where
Yeah.
he talks about givers, takers, and matchers. And a giver is someone who just gives and gives and gives, no expectation. Adam Grant does think there's an expectation, an implied expectation of a return. But if you give without an expectation of a return, I think it's a powerful way to give. A taker is someone who just takes and takes and takes,
Yeah.
no reciprocity, no nothing, and that's one way to live. And
They
then
don't
there's the
even know they're
matcher.
taking. Most of them, they're just like always taking.
Exactly. And then the matchers are like everything's got to be 50-50. Meet me halfway. Quid pro quo. I do for you, you do for me. Affiliates, right? Two affiliate marketers get together and one mails for one and one mails for the other, and one doesn't get as many leads as the other, and the other says, you got to mail for me again so we get equal leads.
Right.
That kind of stuff. So, when I think about looking for indicators of people who are giver. I want to hang out with givers.
Yeah.
Now, Adam Grant also talks in the book about, he says the most successful people in business, who do you think they are? And obviously say givers, right? And he says, who do you think the least successful people in business are? And it's also givers,
Givers. Yeah.
because givers, he calls them champs or chumps. Like you keep giving and giving and giving. It's like you're putting the oxygen mask on everybody else, and then you die,
Right.
right? Because you never get paid, you never get the success, you never get the accolades, which then leads to success and money. And so I don't think it's that drastic, but I did get it, that you can be a chump by being a giver when the people you're giving to are takers and matchers only. And
Right.
so it's an interesting way to look at your life in terms of, do you want to be around takers? Do you want to be around matchers? I don't generally.
Yeah.
But, I'll hang out with some people who are takers and matchers, if there's some benefit in the relationship that can have, and then they're not a complete taker or a matcher because
Yeah.
I'm getting an asset from them maybe that they're not even think they're giving me, but I'm getting it anyway.
We used to call that
But
scope creep. When I used to do IT consulting, you'd say, "Hey, I'm going to do this for you." And they say, "Okay." And then there's 10 more things on the list.
yes,
Well, we
yes,
need to change do some change orders here. Oh,
yes,
no, no, you agreed.
yeah, yeah, I like that. Thinking that in terms of scope creep, that's interesting.
Yeah,
It's like relationship creep, give
right.
give and take creep. Um, and I, you know, as far as like giving, unconditionally, I'd rather be in that camp and get taken advantage of a little bit than be in the taker or the matcher camp all the time and not get the satisfaction and the rewards of being a giver who ends up getting stuff that you're not expecting. Because I think expectations, unrealized expectations, is something that, it's something that is, and I think, you're a grandparent now. I'm not yet. But
Yeah.
with my mother, when she got into her 80s and 90s, it was like she expected respect. She expected, and I gave it to her for the most part, but I think anytime she was disappointed with me, I tried to make her realize that she's only disappointed because it's her unrealized expectations. Now,
Hmm.
I'll take the blame for it, maybe, if you want me to, Mom, because, I love you and I've got a lot of Jewish guilt, so that's fine. But I think that not unrealized expectations are just one of the worst places to be because then you're going to hold a grudge. Then you're going to
Right.
remember something someone did to you, said to you. And it was really that you had unrealized expectations more than it was what you were owed or what
Don't
you
don't
were.
keep score. Yeah.
Exactly. Don't keep score. That's a good way to put it. Right.
Yeah. That's how you have a happy marriage.
That's true. It can't be a matcher thing. It just can't be.
No. No, we're kind of at that stage in life. We've proven everything we need to prove, like you said. We've made enough money, we could just retire, but we don't want to retire.
Yeah.
More, we want to keep giving and helping, and obviously you want to don't not do it for free. You don't want to work 20 or 30
No,
hours a week for free.
I could, I could, you can run a nonprofit and you can run a benevolent business, but then I don't think you can do as much either because then, I don't want to just take my expenses and put them into advertising and put it into all of that. I mean, actually, my ideal goal for my business now is to just make it a break even, but run as much through it as I can, not
Mhm.
just expenses, but my health expenses and my all of my tech and all of my, email marketing and all of my blogging and all of my merchant accounts and everything like that. You
Mhm.
know, if I can run it as a break even and run everything through it, I'm not unhappy with that at all. Now, in the early days of my second career in Titans marketing, I was making a nice profit and on a decent, you know, um, um, seven-figure business. But I I've cut some things back, and cutting some things back and not changing your expenses will cause your profits to go down. Like
Right.
that's just the way life works, right? And the way business works. And I just don't want to. I don't want to lose. I can even lose a little money and I'll be okay. I just
Yeah.
don't want to go. I don't want the company to go bankrupt because I'm not
Remember,
going to feed cash into it.
yeah. Remember Chris Rocheleau spoke at Titans and he talked about Facebook ad testing. And I did that program with him and I ran lots of tests and see what men our age are worried about or what they react to. The by far the most people are fearing isolation. So men over 55. And I can see that. Listen, my wife's been out of town for a week. I left, drove to the store once.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So I can isolate. they're also afraid of losing their skills. They want to stay relevant, stay engaged with the community. That's
Yeah,
kind of what it's about for me. It's like if I just stopped working and played golf all the time, your mind just goes down. You
yes,
physically go down.
yes, yes, absolutely. I mean,
But
being stimulated is so important. It's interesting. I didn't realize that was the fear of men. This is men over what, 55?
yeah,
Um, there's a lot of studies now since COVID of males in their 20s and 30s. It's the same thing.
yeah,
And it's worse because they don't have a lot of them don't have money. They're living in their parents' houses. Um, and the isolation and the inability to socialize.
yeah,
There's a guy, Scott Galloway, who writes about this a lot. He's a professor at NYU. And I read his stuff a lot. I listen to his podcast all the time because he talks about the loneliness of the, the 20 and 30-year-old men that they don't even know how to date anymore. They don't know how to talk to women anymore. Um, and the problem at 50 plus might not be the same, but it's the same principle, like being isolated and lonely. And it's maybe it never ends, maybe it's a lifelong pursuit of socialization. And of course, with I think the 20 and 30-year-olds who grew up with screens from
yeah,
almost day one, whereas not that we're so much better off, but the fact that we had um, a terrestrial world, we had a physical world, a tactile world, even in marketing,
yeah,
direct mail versus email and the internet. Just that alone, you could use that as an analogy for how you are touching the world, right?
yeah,
Whereas everything is digital now. And so, Dan Kennedy, who's one of our mentors, and I know you follow him and I follow him, and
hmm
he talks about offline marketing in an online world all the time. Now
yeah,
it's age dependent because he's about our age, a little older, but he, knows that the physical world and physical product and being able to communicate through other than on a screen is important, not just for your marketing, to
yeah,
diversify your marketing, but to diversify your life. And then, of course, you added to it the human to human
right.
element and meeting people and being out with people and being socializing. You know, I look at, how few since COVID, getting back to live events took a long time. And it was a tough period for a lot of marketers
Yeah,
because they said, I don't need to go travel anymore. I don't need to be at events. I can just use Zoom and I'll be fine. And I think a lot of marketers ended up they had a rude awakening to, just being dependent on Zoom and digital content
yeah.
and I'm
I
not making
lost
the
about
case.
half my revenue from I used to go to speaking. I'd speak all over the world.
Right.
And that was half my revenue, getting paid to speak and then selling from the stage. And that's gone now.
Yeah. Yeah. Although I'm not going to say it's going to make a full comeback, but just like direct mail's not dead, live events aren't dead. Live events, live masterminds,
Yeah,
in-person masterminds aren't dead. So I wouldn't, I mean, I don't know, you're not going to recoup that income, not that you need to, but I'd say that there is opportunity still in that area. And it's because it's like I heard Ryan Levesque speak recently, and he's going to speak at Titans Accelerator in an upcoming call because he's gone through a whole sea change, both in his personal life and his business life.
I watched his
He
webinars. They were amazing.
Yeah, yeah, he's going to share a lot of that with Titans Accelerator soon. And so I was fascinated by, he's going to write a book about it too. It's sort of like, when everybody's zigging, you got to zag, or everybody's zagging, you got to zig. And I mean, we've been teaching that for years, right? About differentiation, not becoming a commodity, not looking like everybody else. But now the things that you zag with when everybody's zigging or zigging when anybody's zagging are things that are like old news.
Yeah.
Like it's like Back to the Future, right? It's like live events. It's like live masterminds. It's like um personal emails without an autoresponder, like actually responding human to human.
Right.
You talk about this in your LinkedIn training,
Yep.
being able to use a personal response as opposed to just an response. And, then the LinkedIn requests you get are just all from ChatGPT
Right.
saying, I looked at your profile and I want to work with you. Like, um, and it's so obvious, right? It's so obvious that everybody's doing it now one way because it's easier, it's automated, in fact, my blog post this past week referred to Ryan, and also I think the subject line was automating everything is overrated.
Hmm.
I mean, I understated that. I understated that. But for a reason, because a lot of people they just want to figure out, how to automate everything. And once they automate everything, they want to automate some more. So
Right.
they don't have to do anything. And what is doing something? Doing something would just be writing a personal email. Like
Yeah.
that's doing something for those people. And so it's so obvious what the zag is to that zig, and yet so few people are doing it.
I see that on LinkedIn every day. It's the
Yeah,
people that are doing really well that I know personally are just reaching out to one or two people a day and having a real conversation.
yeah,
That's what I've been teaching for 20 years. The
exactly.
other people automate it. They send a million messages. They may get one client. It's usually a nightmare client because they're desperate. So it's back to the
Now
future.
that's a differentiator now. Before it was standard operating procedure. It's like the difference between standard operating procedure becoming a differentiator.
Right.
It's so interesting.
It's crazy.
Um, what's old is new again.
Yeah. So, well, Brian, this has been great.
I hope so. I don't know.
We
I
could
was
talk for days on this because we're
I
from the
know.
same old school. Build relationships, get to know people,
Yeah,
reach
it's like
out to friends.
make friends. Yeah, it's like
Call your friend without making an appointment first.
yeah, be nice, contribute,
I
you know.
know.
It's like I don't know.
Our mothers would be proud of us.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So, how
Well,
can people learn more about the Titans Accelerator or
yeah, I mean, Titans Accelerator, you've been in it almost from the start, and you're such a great participant. And it's not expensive. As I said, it's $2,000 a year. It's
I've
it's
paid 20,000 a year and gotten less,
I
much
know I
less.
have too. That's why, because my book, one of my books is called Over Deliver. So
Yeah.
it's all about, over delivering on content, on inspiration, on using the group to teach. Like you've done presentations as a member. I get outside guest speakers as well, but it's the members who are so proficient in at least one thing and they share it. That's gold. And we
Yeah.
have 250 members. They're marketers, they're copywriters, they're agency owners, they're media buyers, entrepreneurs of all kinds, brick and mortar, dentists and car repair shops
They're
and
all givers
roofers.
too. That's the amazing thing.
They're
It
all right.
attracts givers.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't know how it happened, but I guess because I don't, if you pay, you can be a member. I don't screen. I screen after you get in and you're a jerk,
Yeah.
you know, but I think that I'm hoping that the way I sell it, so like how you sell is how they respond.
Yeah.
The way I sell it and the way I deliver the information inside, hopefully, everybody doesn't have to be like me, but they have to be a giver
Right.
first. They have to contribute first to connect. That's a requirement for the group almost. And if
Yeah.
you're not like that, you'll either I've kicked a couple of people out, but I'm not really kicking them out. They usually kick themselves out because they don't want to contribute. They just want to take or do matching.
Right.
And so they realize very quickly it's not a place for them. So anybody who's interested in in the group, they can go to briankurtz.net, briankurtz.net/XL. And that's Titans Accelerator. But if anybody just wants to, read my blog, my archive of my blogs, which are all a lot of free content at briankurtz.net, I encourage anybody who's listening to this to just go on there, opt in. I don't even call it my list. I call it my online family. And hopefully I'll treat you like family. I won't abuse the privilege of having you on my list as an online family member. And I deliver some good content once a week. I tell stories from my career. I any lessons I learn out in the marketplace, I try to share those as well. Um, and yeah,
You
that's me.
share like tens of thousands of dollars worth of advice every Sunday with your email.
Oh, thank you, Ted. I appreciate that. And I love your emails. I love what you're doing. You kind of like I love the way you like, pique interest with an entry point that's not obvious. Like it's not and I love the way you do that. I think
Thank you.
you write great emails and I read yours religiously and yeah, I mean it's basically everything is not a revenue event, but everything is a relationship event. And
Exactly.
that's in business and in life.
Yeah,
Everything is not about, money is important. Again, I'm not a nonprofit, but if you lead with money all the time, it gets tiring for me anyway.
oh, yeah. And people unsubscribe from your list and they don't buy from you.
Right,
Well,
right.
thank you, Brian.
Now, thanks, Ted.
This
Great,
has
great hanging
been
with you.
amazing.